Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Woo! A lively group. I love it already. I am super excited to be here. How's everybody feeling? Wonderful, wonderful. I am here this morning to talk to you about something that's very dear to my heart, and that is resilience, especially resilience during a time of change. I work for many different organizations, and they're all going through change. Culture change, transformational change, strategic change, processes and procedures. We're changing. Previously, I was in healthcare for 13 years. I led a huge culture change initiative that would span over a period of 8 years where I would train 3,500 people. We moved from providing a patient experience, a patient service, to creating a patient experience. Teaching everyone in the organization, how do you engage the patient mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally? That was a huge change. I coached 120 leaders, trained 3,500 individuals. How did I manage to do that? Resilience during a time of change. In leadership development, we talk about how great leaders are authentic. And what that means is authenticity means that I can bring who I am to work every day. The way I am in my personal life will be the way I am at work. The filter may be different, the lens may be different, but I present myself as I truly am. We can learn a lot about our leadership and how we deal with change and how resilient we are when we look at our personal lives. Now, I share that with you because I would like to share with you the definition of resilience. It talks about the capacity to be able to quickly recover from difficulties, to bounce back, if you will, to resume your normal shape. So that's what we're going to talk about this morning. How do I do that? How do I remain resilient during a time of change? I'd like to share with you a personal story of resilience that is dear to my heart about this particular family. So I would say maybe 4 years, almost 4 years ago, I was on a business trip traveling to facilitate a training for an auto parts supplier. The name of the training was 5 Behaviors of a Cohesive Team. And I traveled to Tennessee. I'm stationed in Michigan. And whenever I travel, once I arrive in the city that I'm training in, I like to treat myself to a very nice meal, because that's one of my self-care things that I do. I want people to good service, fuss over me, right? So the restaurant of choice happened to be Carrabba's this night, great Italian food. I go in and order my favorite drink, which is lemon drop martini. And because I'm keto, no simple syrup, no sugar, give me Splenda. And I sit down and take a couple of sips from this drink, place my order, and I get a phone call from my daughter. And she is literally screaming and crying over the phone. This went on for what seemed like 10 minutes. I know it wasn't 10 minutes, but it seemed like a very long time. And finally I said, calm down and tell me, what is it? She said, Stephen is dead. Stephen is her husband. I write about this story in my book, Under the Emotion of Anguish. And I will share with you this morning some things I didn't share in my book for the sake of my grandsons. So Stephen was dead, but what I don't share in my book is that he committed suicide. He hung himself in their garage. I'm in Tennessee. I'm hundreds of miles away from my daughter. I can't comfort her. What would I do? I would rush back to my hotel, try to get a flight out that night. Believe it or not, I couldn't get a flight out. I'm talking to my husband. I says, I'm going to drive home. He goes, no, you're not going to drive home. Not with this hanging over your head. I couldn't get a flight out. In talking to my daughter, she says, how am I going to tell the boys? I said, don't tell them, wait till I get home. Here I am, the social and emotional intelligence coach, 100 miles away from my daughter. I can't help. Still working to get a flight home. The only flight I could get home was just 30 minutes before my original flight. That was right after my training. Prayer, meditation, journaling, talking to my husband, I finally calmed down enough to fall asleep and wake up. What would I do the next morning? I would tap into a place of resilience and I would facilitate that class. I don't know how I did it. Prayer. The power of prayer, resilience. I facilitated that class of 12 men from all over the globe. 2 from China, 2 from Japan, 1 from Dubai, the rest from the United States. But what was special about this class was at the end of the training, the activity that we did to close out the session caused for us all to sit in a circle. And these men had to answer 2 questions. The 2 questions were, where did you grow up? And what was your biggest childhood challenge? The responses those 12 men gave resulted in tears, men crying, and hugging each other. Now keep in mind that Asian culture is not necessarily affectionate. They showed affectionate. There were stories of one gentleman who was abandoned by both biological parents and 2 step-parents. And he ended up living in an alley for 2 years behind a National Coney Island eating hot dogs every day. He said, I hate hot dogs. One man from China grew up with severe starvation, the pain of hunger. He says, I eat every 2 hours because I don't want to experience that pain as an adult. Another man grew up without the physical structure of his ears. He could hear, but this space was smooth. He was bullied, made fun of. Watching those men, in some respects, was like an answer to my prayers, because in that moment, somehow, I knew my grandsons would be okay. I didn't know how, but I knew they would be okay.